Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you so much for joining us today. An especially warm welcome to folks who are new or newer here. Our greeters at the welcome table by the door can help you get oriented if you have any questions. If you have little ones, our greeters can show you the way to the nursery, which is available during the service for children ages 6 and younger. Around this time last year, I embarked on a journey of contemplation using the UU Lent photo a day calendar. For me, it was a practice that connected me to our fourth principle, the quest for truth and meaning. Today, I'm going to share with you what I learned from that process and maybe even invite you to engage in your own practice over the next few months. This never-ending search for truth and meaning is echoed in the words of our opening hymn, leaning over the edge in wonder. Our opening hymn is the thinner teal hymnal, number 1064, Blue Boat Home. Let's rise in body or spirit and raise our voices together to sing hymn number 1064 in our smaller teal hymnal. Make the abstract concrete. I can't capture pluralism on film, but I can show you a table with a chalice, an Advent wreath, and a Yule log all spilling over with light together. I can't pin generosity to a wall, but I can show you hands offering a gift freely. I can't frame justice and place it neatly behind a glass, but I can show you resolute faces streaked with tears, straight backs, standing proud and tall, and the dirtiest of hands clenched in a fist. I can't tuck equity safely away in a photo album, but I can show you listening devices, masking stations, glasses, canes, a basket of fidget toys, and a ramp leading up to a pulpit. I can't squeeze interdependence into a slideshow, but I can show you a honeybee in a tomato flower, a bean vine curling around a stalk of corn, emerging from a blanket of squash leaves covering the earth. And I stopped trying to post transformation to social media, but I can show you a baby in someone's arms, a bottle of liquor being poured down the drain, ashes on a forehead, a syringe full of testosterone. And as much as I want to paper the walls of our church with love, I have not figured out how yet. But when I look at your faces, looking back at me, knowing the joys and the sorrows, holding our shared hopes, fears, and dreams, feeling the struggle and the power of this moment, I know the seeds of beloved community have been planted here. Please join us in a moment of quiet contemplation.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Sarah with the pronouns she, her, and I'm your service leader today. Thank you for your presence, your voices, and your light today. We are so glad you are here. Often we can connect the topic of the day to our vision statement, and today's exploration about how photography can invite us to contemplation is definitely all about seeking wonder. Let's say our vision statement that is printed in our bulletins together as we light our chalice. They are also on the screens above. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder. This Sunday is the beginning of our pledge drive season, when we thoughtfully plan for the coming financial year's new budget by asking ourselves what sorts of financial commitments we can make to our community here. Gray Kramer is our stewardship trustee, and he's here to introduce this year's pledge drive.
As one of the elder members of the church, I could use another euphemism. I've seen many ups and downs in this church over the past 33 years that I've been attending this church. This year, I'm so grateful to be a member of this church and serving on the Board of Trustees as your stewardship trustee. We're finishing up a year of so many activities here at the church. I really want to make a shout out to our Social Justice Committee for all their activities. Social justice is one of the many reasons why we are a church, to serve others and our fellow congregants and the people outside the church. I'm proud of having so many new and young members of this church, this being another thing I'm grateful for about our church. This past year has also been a financial challenge. with the damage to the kitchen, and as you all have seen, and we're still having roof issues. So the church is the start. So at the start of this pledge process, you want to ask the question, well, why pledge? Can't I just put money in the collection? When the pledge drive is to determine how much money we are going to spend over the next year. And we actually don't really count the plate, or we estimate a plate, but most of the time what we need is a commitment from people. And that commitment then allows us to determine the budget. I already have our preliminary budget made from all the requests that all the committees have made. Of course, we have things like pay raises for all our staff that are coming in, besides some increases from our music committee. And I want to shout out to our music committee. We've had some wonderful, wonderful music here at the church, and we really need to support the music committee. So once I get all the pledges in, we're going to have to then start making the decisions. Well, who's going to get what? I'm not going to reduce anybody's pay. Everybody here has worked hard. And so the other things that will get affected. And so it's up to you to, if you can, up your pledge. We're about 7%. The new budget is about 7% higher than the previous year. So if y'all can think about maybe a 5 to 10% increase on your pledge, I'd really appreciate it. So after the service here, I will be in the Fred Ballroom and coffee hour. If you've got questions for me about the budget, I've actually got the preliminary budget with me, and I'm going to be talking to some of my committee members about that. So please give this consideration. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. It is so nice to see so many faces today. So today our story comes from a Middle Eastern folk tale, and Sarah's going to help me with the story. So I want you all to listen closely to this story and see if you can figure out the woman's secret before the border guard does in the story. So a long time ago, at the border crossing of a country far away from here, a border guard noticed a traveler approach. She was leading a donkey whose back was stacked with heavy bales of straw. The guard's job, among other things, charged him with making sure that travelers didn't smuggle anything into the country. Does anyone know what the word smuggle means? Okay, it does. It means that we're going to sneak something. Smuggling means that you're bringing something into a country illegally, either because the item is illegal or because you don't want to pay all the taxes and fees associated with the item. So his job was to make sure people didn't do that. So the guard was watching this woman approach, and his intuition told him that he needed to be suspicious of her.
Stop right there. I must inspect everything you are bringing into our country.
He went through the straw bales on the donkey's back especially carefully because he figured that would be a really good hiding space. But he couldn't find anything valuable in the straw.
But I'm certain you're smuggling something.
But the woman just smiled mysteriously. Now, each week for years, the woman came to the border with her donkey, bearing bales of straw.
I searched and searched the straw bundles on the donkey's back, then the hems of her robes, then inside of her food and water bundles, and I could never find anything valuable hidden in them.
Many years later, after the official retired, he happened to see the woman in a marketplace. He approached her and said,
Please, tell me, I beg you, tell me, what were you smuggling?
Why, whatever do you mean, sir? She said innocently.
I'm no longer a guard, and even if I could get into trouble, I'd never do so. But for years, I knew you were smuggling something, and I only want my curiosity satisfied so that I can die in peace and not wander any further.
Well, you're right then. Every time I crossed the border into your country, I was smuggling...
What?
Donkeys. So did any of you all figure out that donkeys was what the woman was smuggling? Really? Wow. Well, y'all are better than me and better than the guard because we couldn't figure it out. I had no idea at all. And that's what I love about this story. The answer was right there, right in front of his face and right in front of our faces all along. But the guard couldn't see it, and I couldn't see it. And it makes me wonder, what sorts of things could we be noticing if we're paying attention, but that we might not see if we're not paying attention? Can you guys think of anything like that? That's a very abstract question. If you can't think of anything like that, that's okay. But if you can, you could share a thought. Kindness. Ooh, I like that. I like the idea that there are probably people being kind to us all around us that we're not noticing. I'm noticing some green shoots coming up out of my garden at home. And I even noticed some coming up out there, thanks in large part because a very kind soul cleaned up our space this week. Yes, I didn't get his permission to call him out, so I won't, but I'm very, very grateful for that. Yeah. So that's one example. Another example is a lot of times there will be a sun setting or a sun rising and it'll be making beautiful colors all over the sky, but I usually am so busy thinking about stuff that I won't notice it unless my son points it out to me. And there's a lot of neat things like that out there that we can notice if we slow down, look around, and pay attention. So this week, I want to invite each of you to see what you can notice around you. And maybe you'll see something that makes you go, wow. Later in the service, we are going to see some pictures that Donnie here took. And I bet they are going to make you say wow, because they sure did make me say wow. So watch for that later in the service. And in the meantime, you all may go back to your seats. So thanks for being here and listening to my story. We're holding our special music for a little later in the service because it is my sacred text for today, and we're going to move into our time of candles of community. If you'd like to share a joy or a sorrow in person, please use these candle cards, which are located on the back table. Or if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvuuc.org. I already shared my joy at how much better our front garden looks today. I bet you we'll be seeing some crocus and some daffodils in no time out there, which is really exciting. We have a candle card for Tom Burns. He had a major surgery on Friday, and he has not been recovering the way that we hoped he would be. Yesterday was quite a struggle for Tom and his family. Please keep Tom and Martha and their girls in your thoughts and in your hearts. We also heard from Dana Inzer this morning. Dottie shares that Dana has called her this morning. Bob is in Maryland and collapsed this morning. He is in the process of being rushed to the hospital, and Dana is driving to Maryland right now. They've, of course, given permission to share this. Please keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. So this is one of these weeks where our community candle time feels especially relevant. There are people in our community who've been part of this church for way longer than I have, who need this support. And so please just hold them in your heart today. If you wish to light your own candle, please approach the side of the table that is closest to you, and the closer candle keeper will assist you. Please light the candles at the back of the table first so that no one has to reach over an open flame. If you wish for us to light a candle for you, please raise your hand until I acknowledge you, and I will light a candle for you. And our community is so much larger than just those of us who are in the building today. So we light a candle to hold space for all of you who are not physically present with us, but are ever in our hearts. Light a candle for Tom, Martha, and all of us who love him. We light a candle for Bob and Dana and all of us who love him. And we light a final candle for all that remains unspoken in our hearts and minds. Every year, a group of very creative Unitarian Universalists who still identify to one degree or another with their Christian heritage produce a photo-a-day calendar for Lent. Every day in the calendar has a word, generally a fairly abstract word, for us to contemplate and look for as we go about our day. And then when we see something that we feel is connected to the word for a day, we take a picture of it with our ever-present camera phones and post it to social media with the hashtag #UULent. I've tried this practice many times, but last year, 2023, was the first time that I did every photo every day. And the practice did eventually become transformative. And I'm going to tell you about it in a minute. But first, we are going to get a little preview of some of the photo-a-day words for 2024 in this video, with music from Karis Carter and photography from Donnie Barnett.
Watching in my yard, going fast as he can. Get that other one in your hand. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, go. Ferris wheel spinning in my head, and turning round it goes. Birdie, high as you can. Giddy up, giddy up, giddy up, go. Smell of flowers in the hair. The winds are blowing through my hair. Words can't say it, I am doomed to fall in love with you. Rain's been falling all day long. The sun never shined till I saw your face. Plants at home are doing well, might be fine after all. Those ugly things we said, go slow. Don't keep them in your head like a disease down in your knees. Flying in my head, move slow. I can hear the patter of the wings in between the patter of my heart. Smell of flowers in the air, winds are blowing through my hair. Words can't say it, I am doomed to fall in love with you.
Those are Just amazing. I'm curious. I'm curious about how the heck you managed to get those photos. When we hear talk about seeking wonder as part of our vision for who we are as community, it can mean a lot of things. Wonder is one of those abstract things that's hard to put in a photo album or pin to a wall. But the feelings that bubble up in me when I see those photos and listen to that music, it creates a feeling in me that is absolutely wonder. Regardless of what belief systems we hold or don't hold, there is something that happens to us as humans when we are connected to that sort of beauty. Somehow, we end up both humbled and uplifted at the same time. And it makes me so glad to be a human being. As I told you before our special video presentation, last year I embarked upon the photo a day journey during the season of Lent. My photos aren't near as pretty as Donnie's, but the photo a day journey is really not about making pretty photos. It's about engaging in a contemplative practice. It's about paying attention to your surroundings, being thoughtful, aware, searching and finding meaning, and sometimes making it up as you go along. So I entered last year's season of Lent with the photo a day calendar and made a real commitment to give it a try and see what I learned. I rarely possess the persistence to complete a project of this scale, but I was determined to actually be disciplined and do it this time, to see what a committed practice could bring up in me, something I would do when I felt like it and when I didn't. Part of the great challenge of the exercise is that words are usually abstract, like humility and connection and such. Every once in a while, I'd get an easy word like fire or heart, and I enjoyed a moment to be kind of literal. Finding a potato shaped like a heart definitely brought me joy on that day. Usually, though, the words were abstract, and yet sometimes I could just post the photo without explanation anyway, which I believe says something about the shared human experience. For example, when I post an image of my dog Blue on his back, waiting for a belly rub with the word relationship, we all know that fits. Likewise, the mysterious hole in my yard with the word curiosity. Or blooming dogwood trees with the word flourish. We have enough of a shared understanding among us that no further explanation is needed. And that taught me a lot about how we humans communicate with each other and how we share quite a bit of common symbolic language. Where the practice really got rich, though, was on the days where there wasn't a simple answer to the word of the day. On those days, I would have to think hard about it and often just carry the word around with me in the back of my mind as I went about my day, searching for anything to symbolize something meaningful to me about the word. This search helped me connect with the meaning of words in deeper ways than when it was easy. Sometimes I'd have to figure it out myself, like when I decided I had to create anticipation with an art project. There's the anticipation. Because I wasn't finding anything out there in the wild. Sometimes the word would come to me gracefully and unearned, like when someone here gave me tomato seedlings on Generosity Day. Or the time I was looking for abundance while setting out the pins for the Transgender Day of Visibility service. And then I looked down and saw that abundant, overflowing love was just right there on the table in front of my face, which ironically, 100 pins was not enough abundance for that service. But the biggest stretch days, the best stretch days, were the days that I was going to have to dig deep and make a connection that actually needed a little bit of explanation. That's what happened on the day when the word of the day was meaning, where I shared this photo of the little purple wild violets that were popping up in my yard. Here's what I wrote on that day. We humans, we love to make meaning. We do this whole pattern recognition thing where we see faces in trees, create superstitions, and also learn things that might be essential to our survival. Meaning making is an evolutionary advantage at its best and the source of a large amount of religious pain at its worst. I've been noticing a lot of purple wildflowers everywhere I go lately. And whatever part of my brain does the pattern recognizing, meaning making stuff has been playing with these purple flowers. What does it mean? Well, it might mean that it's spring, and that's when wildflowers come out, right? It might mean that purple flowers are easier for pollinators to notice than some other color, something I learned at the Children's Museum a few years ago. And for me, there's an extra layer of meaning that I've chosen to hold. Many years back, wildflowers were a symbol that I chose to symbolize the benevolent and uncontrollable force of the natural world. I made up that meaning, but it doesn't make it any less meaningful when I need to be reminded that there is love and beauty here on this planet for all of us. The great gift of the photo a day practice was that sometimes I'd spend a minute on it, and sometimes I'd spend all day on it, like it was a computer program running in the background. But for the 46 days of Lent, I did it every single day. And there is something transformative about entering an intentional, extended time of contemplation. It reminds us that life is so much more than the humdrum day to day. It opens us up to learning from the wisdom that is surrounding us and the wisdom that is inside of us already. It showed me that there are teachers everywhere, even if they are often dogs and wildflowers. The treasures of our present moment are easier to discover when we're looking for our word all throughout our surroundings. And doing a practice for an extended period of time, like the month and a half of Lent, creates new habits in our minds and bodies. Whether it's a contemplative practice like the photo a day journey or some other sort of committed spiritual practice, it will rewire the pathways of our brains and the habits of our bodies. We can let it transform us in ways we cannot even imagine when we are at the very beginning of the experiment. The Christian tradition does it around this time of year, beginning on Ash Wednesday, which is this Wednesday, and maintaining a practice of contemplation, fasting, and generosity leading all the way up to Easter Sunday. They take Sundays off, which is why they often talk about Ash of Lent being 40 days, but if you include the Sundays, it's 46 days. I throw trivia in there and then I lose my place, so give me that. Yeah. We can let this transform us. I said that. All right. This is their way. This Lenten practice is their way of preparing for the most important holiday of the year. And while some forms of Christianity do lean hard on guilt and sacrificial atonement, others use this as a time as a productive invitation to get in touch with our humanity and engage in the discipline of a practice. Other religious traditions do this with other time frames, but with the same intention of engaging in a special time set aside for inner work, contemplation, growth, and change. For Jewish practitioners, the 10 days of awe, the period of time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is marked by contemplation and repentance. Many pagans enter into an intentional time of contemplation, rest, and shadow work during the darkest parts of the year, some starting at Samhain and others starting at winter solstice, often waiting until those first crocus and daffodil blooms come up before they switch gears to more active pursuits. The Muslim practice of Ramadan is a month of fasting, service, community, and growth that occurs on the ninth month of the Islamic calendar, which this year runs from March 10th to April 9th. And the list could go on and on and on. This is a thing that humans do, so we see it in a lot of our religious traditions. It's interesting to me that in many religious traditions, the special time that they've set aside for deep inner work is often accompanied by fasting. For those of us who spent time in more oppressive facets of religion, fasting and other forms of self-denial can be triggering, reminding us of the debasement we once experienced and broke free from. Ascetic practices like these can often feel like what Mary Oliver referenced in her poem, Wild Geese. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. But I want to briefly make a case that there can be some value in the practice of fasting or abstaining from something during a chosen time for transformative inner work. While I do have my own share of religious baggage because of how I was raised, I don't have any religious baggage around fasting. In fact, I first encountered it as a spiritual practice in a class in college after I had already started working on deconstructing some of the harmful beliefs I was carrying around. In this class, we actually engaged in fasting as part of an assignment. And I learned something really valuable about the practice of choosing to let go of something that is taking up a lot of space in my life. What I found back then, and have rediscovered several times since, is that fasting's value is not from inflicting suffering on yourself. Its value is in discovering where your attachments are, and then in creating space for something new when you intentionally abstain from one of those attachments. I'm currently fasting from social media, which is ironic since last year I used social media in my photo a day practice, which just goes to show that you need different practices in different years, depending on what's going on in your life. This time of letting go has made room for me in seeking other kinds of connection, and honestly, it's been great. And it's something that I never would have done if I hadn't decided to fast from social media first. This sort of abstaining isn't about self-denial as much as it's about making room for something else in your life and understanding your own habits, your own humanity better. Contemplation practices like the photo a day practice and abstaining practices like fasting are different paths to transformation, but they are both transformative. And there's tons of other transformative practices out there too that are meaningful, at least in part, when they become regular. A practice means we do it regularly. A yoga practice connects mind, body, and spirit in generative ways. Meditating daily with an app like Insight Timer can deepen a personal sense of well-being and reduce anxiety. I know some folks here hike once a week, all year long. Absolutely a transformative practice. Some will spend some deep time contemplating a sacred text a little bit each day, where less is more and you're really letting it soak in. Some commit to making art or music daily, whether we feel like it or not. And all of this and more can nurture our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. All of it can be part of the spiritual growth that we are here seeking. Today, 3 days before Lent begins, I'm inviting you to engage in a practice. Maybe you want to try the photo a day thing. If so, our church's Facebook page will be making space for you to share photos there every day if you wish. Maybe you need to let something go for a while, whether it's meat, wine, media, or complaining. I couldn't fast from complaining, just saying. Or maybe there's another practice that is calling you. And if Lent isn't your thing, maybe there's a different period of time that's more meaningful to you, which is fine, because the gift of transformation that comes from intentional practice is meaningful whenever you choose to unwrap it. If you do decide that this time is the period of time you want to engage in practice, or if you're curious to heal or nurture your relationship with the Christian traditions, maybe you want to join me right here this Wednesday at 5:45 for a Unitarian Universalist Ash Wednesday and Communion service. Or maybe you don't, and that's cool too. Find your practice and decide what period of time is meaningful for you to engage in that practice. Whatever vehicle of growth you choose, and whatever time you decide is right to engage in it, I hope you embrace this opportunity as an opportunity to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder.
As we enter another week of uncertainty in the world, let us remember that there is only one side, that of humanity and planet Earth. May we pray for peace. May we raise our voices in acts of resistance, and may we remember to take very good care of ourselves, each other, and those we love. May we remember these words adapted from Unity Prayer. The light of love surrounds us. Love enfolds us. The power of love protects us. Love watches over us. Wherever we are, love is. Changes abound. Thank you for being with us today. We'd love if you could stay for coffee hour. If you're visiting, we invite you to leave your information at the welcoming table and to grab a brochure. We have a sign-up list posted for coffee hour in the fellowship hall. It's a great way to give back to your church community without a long-term commitment. You just pick a week to make coffee. Training and support is available for our first-timers. Starting next week, there will be a small chance that you will show up in our YouTube video unless you sit in this section or this section of the church. Those are the two sections that are behind the camera. So if you want to maintain your privacy, please sit in those two areas. Children will continue to not be filmed during time for all ages. Our stewardship trustee told you that we are going to start collecting pledges for this coming fiscal year soon. We are also noticing that some of last year's pledges haven't been coming in. Might include mine as well, apparently. Now I'm thinking about that. So if you pledged last year, please check to see if your pledge is up to date and catch it up if you can. Put that on my to-do list. If you're interested in officially joining our church, or if you just want to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and how we organize ourselves here, our next Path to Membership class series is being held on March 3rd and March 10th after church. That's the 3rd and the 10th. Space for these classes generally fill up pretty quickly, so use the sign-up sheet on the back table or email membership@hvuuc.org. That's membership@hvuuc.org to register. Our closing hymn is 1010, We Give Thanks, in your smaller teal hymnal. This is also when we collect the offering. Our congregation manages to do quite a lot with your donations. Social justice efforts from river cleanups to Try Pride, creative projects like today's video, educational opportunities like last year's religious trauma workshop. And we can't do it without your generosity, which is something we give thanks for. Please rise with us in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 1010, We Give Thanks. We're going to sing it 3 times.
This week and every week. May justice lead us to the calling of this moment. May wonder meet us right where we're at. May we discover our collaborators and our companions, and may love guide us on our journey of transformation. Go in peace, blessed be, and amen.